Everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric, and the calendar tells me it is October, so it's time for Spooktoberfest on Video Game Esoterica's very own channel. Every once in a while during Halloween, I like to do a one-off video, and today we're going to be talking about 5 hidden gem survival horror games. Whether or not they're actually survival horror will be up to you to decide, but it is that time of year, so we're going to be talking about 5 of my favorite horror games that you won't really hear mentioned anywhere else. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But right off the top, we are playing Juggernaut, which is one of the vibiest, grainiest, weird horror games that you can find on PlayStation 1. This thing from start to finish is just absolutely something you're not going to experience anywhere else. Kind of has a little bit of an FMV point-and-click adventure game thing going on, but it definitely has a lot of survival horror elements as well, in the way that you're basically trying to beat this mansion and everything else you're going to encounter in it. Now, I am just showing you the beginning parts of most of these games because I don't really want to spoil anything. But leave me a comment down below and you tell me if you ever even heard of Juggernaut before or not. This is one of those games I feel like maybe 9 out of 10 people are never going to know it exists. And that's the fun part about doing videos like this. I can introduce you to brand new things, and because it is horror gaming season, I can give you a horror bend. Now, whether or not Juggernaut is traditional survival horror is up to you. I think anything where you're trying to stay alive in a space where you have a horror element definitely is going to qualify for that, even if it is on the fringes of that genre. It can almost be a horror point-and-click adventure as well, but it's got a really fun soundtrack, and it does have some jump scares, so I'm going to warn you that this one would technically be one if I didn't actually tell you it was coming up. 35 seconds, I'll be right back because I got 4 more amazing games to show you. I mean, that is the fun part about Juggernaut. The visuals, the music, the sound effects really do build a vibe that has that kind of PlayStation 1, almost otherworldly or backrooms aesthetic going on to it. And it is a game that has a metric crap ton of story, which is something in this era, especially for survival horror, you didn't get all that much of. And this is text dense. You're going to get a lot of lore here, and even though it does have that kind of janky PlayStation 1 aesthetic, it 100% works in the context of what you're doing in the game. And when I say Juggernaut gets very strange, I 100% mean it. You're going to be traversing through so many different areas in this game, seeing so many different things, and reading so much lore in text, and that really is the fun thing. Because if you're looking for a horror game to play this October, but you don't want to play something like Resident Evil or actually have a quote-unquote ton of challenge, but you kind of want to be enveloped in that overall horror aesthetic, something like Juggernaut has you covered, and that's why it is the first of the 5 games I'm recommending in this video. It is definitely an acquired taste, but it's one of those things you can sit back, you can almost kind of relax and experience the world of Juggernaut and all the strange things and the horror inside of it without having to worry about that big inventory management thing that you're going to deal with in some of the other games in this video. But leave me a comment down below and you tell me, have you ever played Juggernaut before, and did you know it existed? Because I feel like of all the games you're going to see on this video, this one and the next one are probably going to be titles that you've never heard of before. And this is a game I've never actually featured on the channel, but a couple you're going to have seen in years past if you are a regular viewer of Video Game Esoterica. Now let's move to the second game in the list, and this is one that I absolutely love recommending to anybody who will listen. A video that I made about 4 years ago on the topic, although this is new footage. This is Devilman on PlayStation 1, and this game absolutely has a very weird and very interesting thing going on with it. That is because the first area in the game is going to be survival horror, and the second area in the game is going to be a 3D beat 'em up in a horror environment, and that is not a combination you've ever seen before. I don't think you'll ever see again. But the best part about Devilman is just absolutely an amazing horror aesthetic and vibe. You start off in this mansion here trying to navigate around, and this thing has what absolutely is my #1 fear in life as far as animals are concerned. Not this here, you'll see it in just a moment. But Devilman is a game that unfortunately, because it's not translated, not that many people talk about it, not that many people actually know that it does exist. But the menus are in English, and you can get text online telling you what's going on in the story and understand how to play the game, and that is 7/10 of the battle when it comes to playing a game in the Japanese language. And it is one of those things, sure, you're not going to understand the story completely, but with the visual storytelling and overall horror aesthetic, you are going to know why you're scared, you are going to know why you're running away from something, and that's still going to impact you even if this game never actually got an English release, and unfortunately has never been translated at this point in time. But one thing you don't need English for is the amazing soundtrack, so go ahead and listen. I'll be right back to tell you a lot more about Devilman. I mean, definitely a great horror soundtrack there, and it does build up the anticipation of what it is you're going to be running away from in this first survival horror section of the game. And unfortunately, it is one of my least favorite things in the world, and I am leaving the screen blank so you can understand that that suspense is being built in the game because the music starts to swell even more, and you just have a big fucking spider hanging out. I do not like these things in real life. They are one of my phobias, and I have absolutely no interest in seeing them, including in a video game. But as far as suspense is concerned, this section in Devilman is just a straight up 10 out of 10. You need to run away and avoid this spider and basically hide from it so you can continue along this level, but there's so many different switchbacks, so many different dead ends, so many different webs on the ground that are going to stick your character there for a moment in time. When you are running away from this spider, your heart's going to be racing, the game's just going to be amping up that soundtrack, and you're going to be doing everything you can to get the ever-loving hell out of the way of what amounts to basically a hippo-sized spider. Now, I don't know that they get that big in real life, thank God for that, even in Australia where they do get pretty big, but if I actually saw this, I'd probably just drop dead of a heart attack, straight up, no jokes, if that actually happened. But trust me, Devilman is an absolute vibe. It is so much fun, and then after you're done with the survival horror segments, you get a horror beat 'em up, and that's going to be great for horror gaming in October as well. I'll have something like Splatterhouse, except in a 3D environment, and it's actually good. Now let's move over to my third pick here. This is Echo Night, and this is from Software. That is a mouthful to say, but I got through it. And this is basically long before you get to anything like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, or anything else of that nature. This is kind of where From Software got their start with these atmospheric, vibey, first-person adventure games on PlayStation 1. And you'll see there the logo pops right up. And this is basically kind of From Software playing around with the horror aesthetic and their own world building with item lore and everything else that you're going to see in something like the Dark Souls series moving forward. And this game just absolutely has such a fun sense of atmosphere in place. Even if this isn't the most technically impressive thing that From Software has ever made, you can see the hallmarks of where they came from and where they got to when you play something like Echo Night. All of the weird environments, all of the storytelling, all of the very dramatic vistas you're going to see kind of feel like different areas in a Dark Souls, a Bloodborne, or an Elden Ring that have their own unique visuals in place, so you can kind of just track where you are in the game. And I do love the fact that this thing basically moves a lot slower than something like Elden Ring, and even though I love that game, definitely one that does kick my ass, where something like Echo Night goes a little bit easier on you. But if you ever wondered where From Software got their start or where they came from, pun incredibly much intended dad joke on that one. Playing something like Echo Night 100% helps you understand how you get to something like Dark Souls in the first place. It's got a fun horror vibe. It is a full real-time 3D environment versus being something that's pre-rendered. And if you can't tell already, that's kind of a trend here. We're either doing the point-and-click style stuff or we're going through these pre-rendered 3D environments, because I'm not going to recommend any Resident Evils or Dino Crises or games like that to you this October, because you played each and every one of them, I'm sure, if you are watching this channel, but you are looking for some of those deep-cut hidden gems, some of the best PlayStation 1 games of all time. But don't worry, this isn't a PlayStation 1 exclusive video. The next game is going to be for Dreamcast. It just happens to be that the PlayStation 1 has a ton of survival horror and horror hidden gems compared to pretty much any other platform out there of this era. But Echo Night is just straight up from start to finish such a fun ride, filled with such an engrossing story, and those From Software touches that you know, love, and remember from a lot more of their most recent games. And trust me when I say their soundtrack and music was spot on back in the PlayStation 1 era, just like it is now, so listen, and I'll be right back. And moving into the Dreamcast era, we are going to be talking about Illbleed today, and there's one game on this list that maybe you have played before, or at least have heard of, outside of something like Echo Night. I feel like Illbleed would be that game. Now, I'm not here to blow smoke up your ass and tell you that this is some sort of 10 out of 10 game. Illbleed can be difficult, it does not hold your hand, and at some points in time, it actually feels outright hostile design-wise towards its player. But when I say some of the stuff you're going to see in this game is so insane, so intense, and so weird that you have to experience it, I absolutely mean it. I'm not really giving you any spoilers whatsoever, but some of the subject matter this game actually touches on, whether innuendo based or just straight up in your face wise, it is something you've probably never seen in video games before. And this is definitely a game. I've had this in my collection for the longest time, and I personally love it, even if I can admit that the design is absolutely jacked up. Basically, you have to find an item in each world before you can even start playing the game, so you can actually find out where some of the scares are. You can end up dying of blood loss, you can end up dying of a heart attack. There really isn't anything in this game that isn't going to hurt you in some way, shape, or form. It's almost like a survival horror puzzle game with some really light mechanics as far as the actual combat is concerned, and trust me, in this game, avoiding combat definitely something you want to do because you're an underpowered player and the combat is a little bit janky. But when I talk about the Dreamcast vibe, the games that really personified what Dreamcast was like and how different it was compared to every other console out there, Illbleed is a game that I just absolutely point to every single time to explain what the Dreamcast was like. This game, I just don't understand how it got made, but I'm so happy that it did. It's got all the fun gore, all the fun survival horror going on with a completely different aesthetic and a great soundtrack. So another sample time, 45 seconds. I'll be right back with one more game. I mean, that music's definitely a vibe, and think of it this way, if you've never played before, imagine the following: a Woody from Toy Story style character, except he's not trying to save his friends, he's trying to save his girlfriend's sexy doll, who has an ass so big, even Sir Mix-a-Lot wouldn't know what to do with it. That is something that's going to happen in Illbleed, and if you've never played it before, I can't stress enough, this is a game that you're never going to forget. Just trust me, ignore the combat. And big thanks to Kilter Music for helping with captures. I should have told him just stand on the helipad and get the hell out of there, because actually fighting the monsters is a one-way ticket to death. Now moving over to the last game in this list, this is Hell Knight, and it is not the same game that I always talk about on the 3DO M2, Evil Knight or Hell Knight. This is also by Konami, which makes it really hard to search the actual game when you're thinking about the arcade version, because this is the result you're going to get. This one has got this kind of neo-futuristic Hong Kong, Tokyo thing going on, kind of feels a little bit like cyberpunk horror, and kind of has a lot of similarities to Echo Knight as well. And this is a game that I just wish more people knew about, because I really feel like no one's going to have any idea this one exists, because it really didn't get a North American release, at least by my memory. It is a super vibey game. It's going to engross you in its story, and it's going to keep you around to kind of find out what's going on as well. And it has a really deep narrative that is going to kind of give you a ton of information, but also kind of pivot up your expectations of what story could be, and it is going to give you some surprises and twists later on in the plot as well. But again, I have played all these games, I love them, but I'm not spoiling anything here for you. I'm just trying to get you into them to think to yourself, this is definitely something I should check out this Halloween season, because it's not like we are lacking any sort of horror games on any sort of platform, but there are so many games out there that just deserve a lot more looks from people, and they're games that you really just don't hear anyone talking about. And even though sometimes that's to the detriment of my own views when I talk about games that not many people are aware of, just take it from me, at least try one on this list. If you're going to try just one and I had to pick for you, give Devilman on PS1 a chance. It is absolutely terrifying, and the 3D beat 'em up sections with the horror elements, they are straight gold as well. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me what your favorite hidden gem survival horror games are out there. If this video does well, maybe you'll see a part 2 this Halloween season, but I got a couple other horror things planned without turning the entire channel into a horror gaming channel. But we're done, kind of imagine where we're going next, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.